All right, welcome. I think we have everyone on. We'll hold on here and get some folks online. All right, thank you for joining. We have a few on. All right, let's get started. I think we have a few viewers. All right, so I want to welcome everyone to our town hall event with North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics. So thank you for being here. I'm hosted by the Waccamaw Siouan STEM Studio. My name is Ashley Lomboy. I'm the program director for STEM Studio and the Global Information Security Manager at Corning. I will be your moderator for the town hall discussion today. And town hall really means that we want to hear from you. We want your input. We want to hear your questions. So during the event, please ask questions. Below, we'll answer them here live, and some of them will make it into our event here today. We are so excited to have you all join our talk today to learn more about NCSSM, what it has to offer our kids. But before I do, I want to share a few words about STEM Studio and introduce our panelists to you this evening. The Waccamaw Siouan STEM Studio was founded in 2019 as a program under the Waccamaw Siouan tribe. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. We started with just a few Waccamaw Siouan professionals who have built our careers in STEM fields and wanted to give back to our community that has helped us grow into who we are. We started with a mission to provide engaging STEM opportunities to our tribal youth and share opportunities for them to grow in the field. If we can inspire just one child to continue being curious and continue learning in STEM, then we have been successful. Our program started with our key asset, which is our members and their experiences. This will not be possible without donations and support from our community, donors, and our grantors. So I wanted to share with you, and if you want to learn more about STEM Studio, you can visit us at our page at waccamawsiouan.org. All right, and I also want to spend some time as well here at the beginning of this to give a land acknowledgement. The land we once thrived on and life from indigenous people known today as the Waccamaw Siouan Indians, mostly living in established settlements along the Cape Fear River and the banks of Lake Waccamaw. Our tribe's very existence today is resilience. Currently, we number around 1,600, with most of us living in Buckhead and St. James communities within Columbus County. With hard work and dedication, the tribe transformed a swamp into a livable area for a community to grow and continue to thrive. Many of the roads we travel today in Columbus County were first established by the Waccamaw Siouan Indians. We need to protect and honor the history of these places. The Waccamaw Siouan Indians continue to maintain their culture, our culture, and identify against a society built on colonialism and oppression. The tribe continues to exercise its sovereignty with the state of North Carolina while providing resources and support for Waccamaw Siouan people. All right, so let's get to introducing our panel. So I am so excited to introduce to you who we have here today. First, I'll start with Robert Andrews, who is the Associate Director of Admissions for North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics. So thank you, Rob, for joining us. We also have Miss Emily Thomas, who's a member of the Waccamaw Siouan tribe. She received her Bachelor's of Science in Industrial and Systems Engineering and is currently a project engineer at Captive Air. Thank you for joining us, Emily. We also have Ms. Hillary Jacobs, who is also Waccamaw Siouan from Buckhead, North Carolina. She graduated East Columbus High School in 2017 and the NCSS online program in 2017. She's a recent graduate of UNC Chapel Hill with a bachelor's in mathematics and a minor in social and economic justice in 2021. In her free time, she likes to attend church, spend time with family, and read. We are so excited to have you here with us, Hillary, as well. And then lastly, I do want to introduce Elena, although she was unable to be with us this evening due to some other events. But she is our Title IX Indian Education Tutor for East Columbus Junior Senior High School. She has been so gracious and provided us some answers to some of her questions today. And so we'll be reading and reflecting on those during the event. I am so proud of everyone that is on here today and what you're doing in the community and how you bring your full self whenever you do it. It is very evident that we have a lot of love for our community, and that really is at our core. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Rob. He is going to share a presentation with you to learn more about NCSSM, and then we'll come back with some questions that we have for our panelists. Rob?
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm very happy to be here. I've been so excited about visiting this week, and I had a chance to visit East Columbus High School yesterday, and all the other Columbus County schools and all the schools in the area. So we really value the students who join us, whether it's in our residential programs, our online program, or our summer program. So I'm going to be happy to talk about those and some of the options that you have for your students. First of all, again, my name is Rob Andrews. I am your direct contact if you live in any of the counties of Columbus, Bladen, if you're in Brunswick, New Hanover, or Pender. So I represent this area. I've been at the school for 20 years now. So I've actually been at the school longer than most of the students I'm recruiting has been alive at this point. So I'm really excited to be able to tell you a little bit more about the School of Science and Mathematics. So we'll talk a little bit about the residential program. Now, our residential program in Durham started in 1980 as America's first free public residential high school featuring STEM. At that time, we had 150 brave students who were part of the class of 1982. Today, we have 680 students from across North Carolina who join us from counties all over. We're very excited, though, that we're actually going to be able to expand the opportunities for students in North Carolina as we're opening a second campus next fall. So if you have a 10th grader, they have more options than students have had in the past. And we're opening a campus with another 150 students in the fall of 2022 in Morganton, North Carolina. If you're unfamiliar where Morganton is, it's about halfway between Hickory and Asheville, North Carolina. So it's in the mountains. And we'll talk a little bit about that campus tonight. We'll also talk about our online program. So in 2008, our interest was growing, but the school and the facility was not growing. So we brought in 80 students in that first year to be a part of NCSSM Online. Today, we have 450 students statewide who stay at their home high school, but take classes through the School of Science and Math to help add on and supplement their home high school experience. So the first thing to know is both the residential and online programs are free. There is no cost to either of those programs being a resident of North Carolina, and we only take students from North Carolina. I'm also going to talk a little bit about our Summer Ventures in Science and Math program, which is a 4-week summer research program that NCSSM heads the application process for. And I'll talk about some of the programs that we have in the summer for students, both one program that's free and a paid program that we have for students here in North Carolina. And the first thing I want to talk about is NCSSM students are like students at any public high school. As you can see in these pictures, they look like students that go to East Columbus or students that go to Whiteville or students that go to any public high school in North Carolina. In fact, a couple years ago in the state playoffs, we actually had to come down and play Whiteville in the baseball playoffs. So the School of Science and Math is dedicated to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And even though we're a STEM school offering honors and AP level and college level courses in STEM, we also offer English and history and music and art. World languages, we actually offer 5 world languages in our residential program. We offer Spanish, French, Latin, Japanese, and Mandarin for our juniors and seniors. In Morganton, we'll expand and have Spanish, American Sign Language, and one more language that's to be named later this spring. So our programs allow students not only to explore science and mathematics at a very intense level, but they also are able to build their resume for colleges and universities. So our second purpose is to prepare students for college, not only academically, but also teaching time management skills, study skills. In the case of the residential program, living away from home, and the online program, networking with students across North Carolina to complete your classwork and to complete projects. So students have a lot of different opportunities through the School of Science and Mathematics. They do competitions, whether it's STEM competitions, whether it's athletic competitions, or other type of competitions. So our students are very engaged within those 2 years that they're at the School of Science and Mathematics. And again, this program is completely free. So if you're in our online program, you would stay at your home high school, but you would take 1 to 2 classes each semester through the School of Science and Math to help add on and supplement what's offered at your home high school. And the nice thing about the online program and all of our programs, it's all about choice. You get to choose what programs you want to apply to. You get to choose the classes that you take. And with the online program, you even get to choose the manner of the way you take your classes. So you could dual enroll, which means you would have a free period at your school, and you would fill that free period with an NCSSM online course. And with that class, you would have the 7 hours a week to complete your coursework. But one evening a week on Zoom, you would log in and you would have one live class sometime between 7 and 9 o'clock at night, Monday through Thursday. So this is an interactive program. It's not like a lot of online courses where you sign up, you watch videos, you listen to the teachers, you take virtual tests. You're actually going to meet other students in the program. Now, for some students, they might have the perfect schedule at their home high school, so they can take the courses supplementally. In a supplemental course, you would do all the coursework on your own time, and we would supply a separate transcript for colleges and universities. Every class you take, you can either dual enroll or supplement. So, I had a student last year who first semester, she would dual enroll because she played volleyball. But in the spring, she didn't have a sport, so she would actually supplement the class so she could take 3 classes at her home high school plus 1 at the local early college or at the local community college. So you have that option, whatever works best for your schedule and works best for you. So science and math is a place where you'll be working and growing with an incredibly talented and diverse student body from across North Carolina. We currently have 92 out of North Carolina's 100 counties represented in our residential and online programs. Columbus County is actually represented both in our residential and our online program right now. So you're one of 70 counties that have students in both programs. And we generally have students in both programs from Columbus County. And like I mentioned earlier, we are building a new campus in Morganton, North Carolina. I know the first thing parents are thinking is Durham's already 2.5 hours away. Am I really going to send my child 4.5 hours away from home? And that's a big concern for people. So that's why we give you the choice. If you want to apply just to the Durham campus or just to the online program, you have that option. But the Morganton campus, for some students, you might find it's a better fit academically, or it might be a better fit with the size. Morganton will only have 300 students compared to 680. Or you might be more comfortable that Morganton's not a big city. Durham's a big city. It's like Wilmington. And we're right in the heart of the city, right near Duke University. But the Morganton campus is a little bit more rural, and it has some beautiful views of the surrounding mountains. Like if you look north, there's Table Rock Mountain up towards Watauga County. If you're looking south from the campus, you see the South Mountains below Morganton. So this is a very beautiful rural-based campus that'll have a lot of outdoor activities and a lot of different environmental science activities, as well as data science, because there's a lot of data firms like Google and Facebook and Apple. So choose the campus that's right for you. This is actually a picture of the main academic building with the cafeteria, our library. What's really cool is there's going to be an outdoor space that kind of resembles our outdoor space between our cafeteria and our ETC on the Durham campus. So students will be able to interact, lots of small meeting rooms for group meetings and for student meetings and student studying in this space. So we're really excited about renovating and building this campus in Morganton. If you're familiar with Morganton, it's the home of the North Carolina School for the Deaf. And in their heyday, they had 2,000 students. Today, they only have about 200 students, so half of their campus wasn't being utilized. The state purchased half of the property and gave it to the North Carolina School of Science and Math to establish the second campus, where we'll have 300 students after the first 2 years when we're open. Now, another program the School of Science and Math is responsible for is Summer Ventures in Science and Math. Summer Ventures in Science and Math is a free 4-week program for academically talented students in North Carolina, who are interested in the STEM fields. So students actually spend 4 weeks on a college campus doing college level research with other students from throughout North Carolina. We work with 4 different universities here in North Carolina to provide some really cool hands-on experiences at these institutions. So whether you're doing medical research, whether you're doing, this group up the top, it looks like they're just having fun scuba diving. They're actually studying the effects of scuba diving on the human body. We've had students do robotics projects. We've had students do environmental studies at the different campuses. So this is really high level, college level research that you can do either in the summer between your 10th and 11th grade year or the summer between your 11th and 12th grade year. Now, we work with 4 different campuses. We work with UNC Wilmington, we work with UNC Charlotte, ECU, and Appalachian State. And with the program, when you apply to Summer Ventures, you can apply for our residential programs in Durham and Morganton, online in Summer Ventures using one application. So you don't have to fill out a bunch of different applications. You can complete one application and apply for multiple programs when you're in the 10th grade. Now, you don't get to pick your campus. You don't say, I want to be closer to home, let's go to UNC Wilmington, or I would love to be in Charlotte for 4 weeks, I want to go to UNC Charlotte. Based on your interest, we assign you to one of the 4 campuses that has research in the area that you're interested in. So like 2 years ago, a lot of students were listing marine biology thinking they'd get to go to Wilmington, but we were actually having marine biology that year at ECU. And the students got to go to the Outer Banks and collect samples and do some marine biology work on the Outer Banks. So just because you think a field like engineering's real prominent at UNC Charlotte, but the engineering experiences might be in Wilmington for the year. So it goes on what schools can provide us what types of different opportunities. Now, all the programs I've talked about so far today are free. They don't cost you any tuition, room, board. Your books are free. The materials that you use in class are free. But we do have a couple paid programs. Now, one free program that we do have is Step Up for STEM. Step Up for STEM is a 1-week summer program for underrepresented students in North Carolina. So we look for Native American, African American, and Hispanic students to be a part of this program. Now, we've actually expanded the program. So you get 1 week, if you're accepted in 8th grade, you get 1 week between your 8th and 9th grade year, and then another week between your 9th and 10th grade year. So this is a 2-year program for students. And during the 2 years, we also keep in contact with you. So this is a chance to really get some experiences within STEM. You get a chance to do some things on college campuses. We work with NC State, we work with North Carolina Central and UNC Chapel Hill with our Step Up for STEM students. And you actually get to spend a week on the Durham campus, living and meeting students like you from across North Carolina. So this is a really great opportunity, and the application will open in December. And I will be sending all the counselors at all the middle schools information about Step Up for STEM. So if you haven't heard about it by the first week of January, parents, reach out to me directly and I'll make sure I get you the link so you can apply to Step Up for STEM. There's no cost to apply. You just fill out an application and we select between 60 to 70 students statewide to participate in this program. We're actually trying to secure some funding so we can increase the size of this program. So we're hoping this year we'll actually be able to bring in more students for Step Up to STEM. And this is a great pathway to the School of Science and Mathematics. This is something that I think this year we had something like 12 students that were former Step Up to STEM students who are now either residential or online students. So some of these students will matriculate and end up enrolling at the School of Science and Math. Summer Accelerators. So this is the first paid program that I want to talk about today. So if you're a rising 7th through 9th grader, you can pay to do a 1-week course at the School of Science and Mathematics. Now, it says 2 weeks, but 1 week is virtual, 1 week is in person at the school. And we offer some really cool, interesting topics. Like there was an astrophysics STEM camp, and the students actually were tracking galaxies using North Carolina's largest radio telescope. And they were doing this as 7th and 8th graders. So these are camps that give students a really hands-on opportunity within STEM. We also have Summer Accelerator for rising 10th through 12th graders. It's a 3-week program, so you do 2 weeks online, and then you do 1 week on our campus in Durham or on our campus in Morganton. So we're actually expanding the program, and we'll have camps both in Durham and Morganton for the coming year. Now, even though it's a paid program, we do have financial aid available. So if you qualify, you can receive a partial or full scholarship. I will disclose that a lot of the money that we raise from our accelerator program, we actually put a lot of that money either back into students at the School of Science and Math, or this actually helps pay for our Step Up to STEM program. So the money that we make on, the summer camp, we actually put into that Step Up to STEM so we can bring in students that are underrepresented in STEM to our campus. Now, real quickly, I'm going to go through how you apply to the School of Science and Mathematics. And this is really important because a lot of the things that we're looking at, if you have a student who's in middle school, we start looking at certain things all the way back to 7th grade. So the application does open on CFNC in mid-October, and it closes in mid-January. This year, the deadline's January 18th because the 15th is on a Saturday, and then the 17th, that next Monday, is Martin Luther King Day. To respect our holiday, we're actually having our applications due January 18th. Now, if you apply to Summer Ventures, there are some supplemental Summer Ventures questions that you'll complete, but basically the application has 3 essays and 2 personal statements. Now, when Emily and Hillary applied, there were 10 essays and 1 personal statement. So we've made it a little bit easier. We've listened to you guys. When you complain about that application after you get in, we listen to your feedback. So we simplified our essays into 3 basic essays that allow you to tell us your story. It allows you to tell us your resources available to you. And we take all that into account when we accept students to the School of Science and Math. We also have 2 personal statements. Generally, we would just have 1. Do you have any adversities that we should consider when we review your application? These can be personal situations, family situations, or school situations that we should consider when we review your application. I've had students talk about how they're going to run out of math classes at their home high school, or they're really interested in one particular field in STEM that isn't offered at their home high school. That's the reason the School of Science and Math exists. So we want to make sure that we give students options that are not available. So we take that into consideration. But because we've all had the adversity of COVID-19 over the past 2 years, we also have a COVID-19 statement. So you can tell us how COVID-19 has impacted you. If you're a 10th grader this year and you had a spring sport in 8th grade, it was probably canceled or postponed because of COVID. Maybe you had a really cool summer camp that you were going to do between 8th and 9th grade that was canceled. Let us know so we can take those things into consideration on your behalf when we review your application. Now, we also look at extracurricular activities and community service from 7th grade through 10th grade. So for my parents of middle school students, get your students involved, get them involved in the community. Community service doesn't have to be a formal activity. It could be helping your neighbors. It could be helping, people within your community. A few years ago, when the hurricane hit southeastern North Carolina and there was a lot of damage in Columbus County and the surrounding counties, maybe you helped neighbors with cleanup. Maybe you hosted a neighbor. Those are things that you can put on your application. Those are things that we'll take into consideration. Leadership, any position where you're in charge or responsible for others. Class offices, club offices, team captains, tutoring. Maybe you're the family member that, helps all your younger siblings with their classes. Babysitting, whether it's, watching your cousins, or maybe it's keeping an eye on your older brother or sister who's not quite as mature as you. Let us know all those different things that you do with leadership. Honors, awards, and recognition. So these can be in school or out of school from 7th grade through 10th grade, individual or group awards. So if you get a recognition within your community, maybe you do something through STEM Studio and you get recognized for it, you can list that on your application. STEM activities, so specific activities that you've done in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. So, Waccamaw on STEM Studio is a perfect opportunity for you to build that resume for the School of Science and Math. So when they're doing activities, take part in those activities because we're going to look highly upon those and colleges will look highly upon them too. These 4 lists, colleges not only look at these for acceptance like we do, they also look at them for scholarships. So these are definitely things that you want to keep track of, because what you'll find is when you're in 10th grade, and I'm sure both Emily and Hillary would agree, it was hard to remember everything you did in 7th grade when you're in 10th grade filling out your application. Just like when they applied to college in 12th grade, it's hard to remember what you did in 9th grade. So keep a running resume. It makes it easy. So even if you don't apply to the School of Science and Math, take away from the presentation today that you should be tracking all your activities, all your honors and awards, all your leadership. I used to work at a college in college admissions. Leadership was worth $5,000 to $10,000 a year. That's a lot of money to give away for not keeping track of things. And a lot of you are, leaders in your community, you're leaders in your school, and we want you to show that leadership. We also have talents, hobbies, and interests as one of our lists. This is more of a fun list, but also if you run out of space under extracurricular activities, move things down to talents, hobbies, and interests. Creatively edit your application to tell us your full story. Now, we have waived our SAT and ACT requirement for the School of Science and Math, so you do not have to take the SAT or ACT to apply to the school. We do require 3 evaluations: your counselor, an English teacher, and a STEM teacher. And a STEM teacher can be any science, technology, engineering, or mathematics teacher that you've had in 9th or 10th grade. We look at your transcripts, so we're going to look at your grades, and how rigorous is your schedule. So how difficult is your schedule compared to other students at the high school you attend? So my advice for you is when you start registering for those high school classes, if you can take an honors class rather than taking a general level course, challenge yourself. We like to see that, and colleges like to see that as well. Everyone likes to see students who are challenging themselves with the most advanced courses available to them. Now, we do make sure that you're a resident of North Carolina, because for our residential and online programs, you do have to be a resident of North Carolina. This year, something different is actually we're moving to the RDS system, which is the same system that students fill out when they apply to UNC system schools. So you would fill that out to determine if you're a resident of North Carolina. Now, in the past, we've had discovery days where students come to campus to take a math test. Because of COVID, we're doing our discovery day virtually. So if you have a sophomore on February 12th, 2022, for about an hour that morning, we'll have a virtual session on Zoom. And then we'll have some tour dates both in Durham and Morganton if you do want to come and see the campus. But you will take your math test virtually. So there is a math test that students take. It's a 30-minute test, 30 questions without the use of a calculator. We are doing that test through Examity, which is a proctoring service. So you will sign up for the time that you want to take the test. It is given 24 hours a day for about a 2-week period. So you can sign up for any time during the day. You just have to sign up within 24 hours before you take the test. Now, one thing I want to mention, I mentioned we had 92 counties represented at the School of Science and Math. It's because we're mandated to do our selection by U.S. Congressional District. So when you're applying, you're not competing with every student in North Carolina. You only compete against students here in this yellow area, which is Congressional District number 7. Your district, we average between 80 to 120 applications. This year, because we'll have 490 residential spaces between our new campus, and Morganton's about right here. So right on that 5 is right about where Morganton is. But because we have 2 campuses, we have 490 spaces. So we'll take that, divide it by 13, which gives us 38 students per district, but the state allows us flexibility of 2.5% above or below that average. Your district, being a competitive district, will be closer to that maximum of 50 students. And again, you're only competing against those students. We have no limit per county or per high school. So we might have 3 students from East Columbus apply, 2 might get accepted to residential, and 1 gets accepted to online. It goes on the merit of your application and not the merit or for the school. So there's no limit per county or per high school. And we do the same mandate for the online program. So with the online program, we'll have 10 to 20 spaces per district. Your district, we normally have, like I said, 80 to 120 for 50 spots in the residential program, 20 spots in the online program. If you lived up here in District 2, Wake County, 300 applications for the same amount of positions. District 4, 250 applications for the same amount of positions. District 9, we actually get about 150 for the same amount of positions. So you actually have a better chance than a lot of students in North Carolina to be accepted because of the way we do our selection. Now, as we get ready to do our Q&A, we do want you to stay connected. So follow us at NCSSM Admissions on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Most of my students out there, you'll probably follow us on Instagram because your parents are on Facebook, and Facebook isn't cool for teenagers anymore. But you can also follow us on Twitter, and your parents can follow us on Facebook. And we do alumni profiles of our alumni. We do stories. We do updates on our application process. Any news or updates, we put them on our Instagram and Facebook pages. And also check out our website. So our website has lots of great information. You can request a tour of our campus. Soon we'll be giving tours of our Morganton campus, so those dates will be announced within the next week. We'll also have our YouTube page, so you can go out and watch videos of our students. You can watch videos of our classes. We have hundreds of videos on our YouTube page that you can check out. There are even some videos that you can try at home. There's some math things that you can do at home with your students. There are some science things that you can do. So this is a really great resource for students and parents who want to explore more fields in STEM and also, get an opportunity to maybe do some experiments at home. So thank you so much for that time, and look forward to your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. So much information you packed into that presentation. Actually, I have a question from the audience who was asking if the slides would be available at some point after, if there's a location that they can get those.
The information's on the website. We don't share the slides out, but what we say is go back and watch the recording, take pictures of them. The recording will be on Facebook, so definitely go back and watch that and check out those slides.
Okay, great. Thanks for the information. Yeah, and we'll definitely try to push more of the communication. So as I said at the top of this is our week with NCSSM. And so on day one, we published a lot of resources. So we'll refresh on the resources and make sure we're using that too. I think that's where the website's going to be at as well. There was one other question that we got from the audience about the pandemic and asking with regards to the pandemic if specifically for the 10th graders, since they're in the middle of a pandemic last year, if they're looking at doing maybe a 1-week program instead of 2 weeks.
We actually, with our summer camp programs, the first year of the pandemic, everything went completely virtual. So we were still able to have our summer programs, but they were completely virtual. Last year, we gave students the option between completely virtual programs or programs that were part virtual, part in person. So it really depended on the parents and, if you felt comfortable having your student go to a summer program. Now, with our summer programs, what we were able to do is we were able to find testing. So any student that came to a summer program, they received a COVID test before they came to campus. Once they came to campus, we had our same mandates that we have for our residential students right now. And then, we tested them once during the week too. So we were very successful this summer. We didn't have any cases in all of our summer programs all summer. Even within our residential program, last year, we only had 3 cases all year. This year, with Delta being a little bit more contagious for high school students, we've only had, I think it's 7 cases out of 20,000 tests that we've done this fall so far. So we're testing our students weekly. If they have no vaccine, if they're vaccinated, they get tested every 2 weeks. So we've been really good on making sure our students are safe.
Okay, thank you so much, Rob. It's so important and make sure our kids are being safe while they're there. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit and hear from Emily and Hillary and about their experiences with NCSSM. So I will start with Emily and then I'll ask you, Hillary, next, the same question. If you can share, what was your engagement with NCSSM?
So like first introductions and how I was involved.
Yeah.
So 10th grade year at East Columbus, Was it you, Rob, that came and did our presentation? Rob came and did a presentation, and at first I was kind of hesitant. I never really heard anything about NCSSM aside from people in the community going to the powwow every year. So I was kind of hesitant because I really didn't know anything about it, and I was so comfortable at East Columbus. But then I talked to Mr. Ellis. He was my math teacher at the time, and he was like, I think you would be really good at this. I think it's a good opportunity. So then I went to a discovery day. Me and my friend went to a discovery day, and it was amazing to me. Just the presentations they did in the auditorium, I was just amazed at the quality of the teachers and the topics that they were covering. It was stuff I'd never heard of, but it was so interesting. And so just from that day forward, I knew I needed to like do all the steps, take the SAT, put in my application, do whatever I had to do to get into the residential program.
Awesome. And Emily, you attended the residential program for 2 years?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
2014 to 2016.
Awesome. How do you think that helped you today in your job today?
I think having made that move to the Triangle early on, it was less of a shock for me starting college in Raleigh. It was definitely a culture shock from 10th to 11th grade, just having that much exposure to so many different types of people and so many people from across the state that in Columbus County, you don't ever see that much diversity. So getting to see that as a 16-year-old as opposed to an 18-year-old really made a difference, in my opinion, just from interactions I had with my peers starting college.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine at 16 leaving home and going, to a residential school. I mean, even when I left at 18 and joined the Army, that was difficult itself.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of the rigorness, I mean, there's the leaving home, and especially if you're not so familiar with leaving, there's a lot of hesitation with that. So I applaud you for stepping out on faith.
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of self-discipline, and there was for sure an adjustment period starting out, like making yourself go to class without you having a set schedule, because at East Columbus, you take the bus or your parents drop you off in the morning and you're at school till 3 o'clock, whereas at science and math you have a block schedule where you might have class in the morning and then you've got a few hours to go do homework or go to the library, and you have to make yourself do that. There's no one there telling you do your work.
Yeah. Do you think that it was, I might go off script here. Do you think that how did it compare with going to college? Like whenever you transitioned to college, was it kind of the same lifestyle that you had been accustomed to, and what was different?
Yeah, I think a lot of the stress that most people were facing in college with the shock of like being away from home and college schedules, I didn't have that because I had already been introduced to it at science and math. So whereas my peers were stressed about 8 a.m. classes and homework assignments, my workload was already that high or even higher from science and math. So I was already used to it. So when I came to college, it wasn't that much of an adjustment.
Mm-hmm. What do you think gave your parents like the confidence to let you go, or did they encourage you to go?
Yes, I lived with my grandparents, but it was really Caitlin and Miss Selena who were like taking me up, because me and Caitlin both applied. So we were going together to the events. And so when I just explained to my grandma what it was kind of like if that's what you want to do, then you can do it. It was hard to pass up the opportunities and exposure that you get by being in the Triangle.
That's awesome. That's awesome. There's nothing like having really supportive grandparents and parents and family. And I think it also speaks to the importance of community and how we can help encourage each other with Selena and Caitlin, and helping get you started there with taking you up. So even like the little things that you don't think are going to turn into something bigger. I mean, imagine if that hadn't happened, Yeah.
Back you had to take the SAT to apply.
Yeah, sure. All right. So last question I kind of have for you here, and then we'll kind of hear from Hillary. Do you have any tips or advice for those in high school today that maybe consider applying to NCSSM?
I would say don't be scared to apply or make that step to make a change. You can get so used to being at East Columbus and the people that you've grown up with, but at some point, if you want to go to college, you're going to have to make that step to go out and meet new people. So it's not that big of a difference to go ahead and make it earlier, because you still have to come home and visit with your family. So it's not going to be like you're completely cut off. It's just you have that opportunity to get that exposure sooner. And it's really something that you don't want to pass up.
Awesome. Good words of advice, Emily. Thank you so much. All right, so let's turn to Hillary. And I'm going to ask you the same series of questions. What was your engagement with NCSSM?
Yeah, so unlike Emily, I did the NCSSM online program, and like Rob was saying, I did choose the option to dual enroll. So I was still taking the courses that were at my high school, and then I had a free period during my day that I was set to work on whatever class I took. And I actually took 4 different classes with NCSSM, and I enjoyed all of them. So I took forensics, I remember that one, and I took, I'm trying to remember, eco-criticism. The cool thing about the online program, like Rob was saying, is that there is those weekends that you get to go on campus. So I had never done like gel pipette work, because at East Columbus, we don't have a class that allows you to do that. So during my online weekend, we actually did that, gel pipetting, and we also got to do some fingerprinting virtually. So like Rob was saying, the classes are interactive. It's not like you just sit at home and watch videos and then yeah, so it was super interactive. We got to do our own fingerprinting. We had like virtual lab simulations in the forensics class. The teachers were always available, so it wasn't just like they were there for that hour during your day that you have the class. And then we also got to interact with other students on the 1 day a week. It was like Cisco WebEx before Zoom was cool back then. We had WebEx meetings with all the students that were in the class, and it was just an awesome experience online.
Awesome, and thank you for sharing, Hillary. And what grade were you in whenever you took the online classes?
Yeah, so I applied 10th grade year as well, and I started those classes in 11th and 12th grade.
Okay, awesome. Was there anything, or how do you think that those classes helped you in your career and in school today?
Yeah, I think whenever I first heard about them, it was from Emily, that she had gone off to do the residential program, and Caitlin that was doing the online program. So at first it was just an effort to boost my resume, boost my transcript, so that whenever I went to apply for colleges, that they would see that I was taking the most rigorous classes that were available to me. But then as I started taking the classes, I started to realize that there was so much out there about STEM that I didn't know about, didn't have access to at East Columbus. I'm not currently studying or didn't major in any of the programs and the classes that I took, but it definitely made me realize there was more out there than nursing and welding and things that are common jobs around here, that these are actually fields that you can go into and study. So yeah, I think that's how it benefited me in high school, as well as in college today. I feel much more comfortable, even though I wasn't online, I feel more comfortable with my time management skills whenever I went into college. So I had to budget that time with my extracurriculars, with my school that I was attending in person, my high school. I still had to get the work done for that online class. So I had to work some things around my schedule. Sometimes there were some late nights I was working on homework for science and math, but it all felt worth it in the end, because I did learn a lot more than I would have learned at East Columbus. So.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's something really special about being able to be around like different diverse talent and different students from different areas. You learn so much by being integrated with that. And then also in the education piece too. because those are all different skills and exposure, like you said, that you wouldn't have typically have gotten at your school at East Columbus, or really at any school, most high schools. You don't have forensic classes like that. That's super cool. That sounds like a class I would like to take with all my Criminal Minds watching. Do you have any tips or advice to high school students today that may be considering NCSSM?
Yes, so I'm currently the college advisor at Fairmont High School in Robeson County. So I'm always telling the students to like take all the honors classes they can. So my advice would really be, I can't remember if this is a science and math slogan or a governor school slogan, but accept the greater challenge. It is science and math. Okay, Rob says yes. Okay, so I always tell them like, accept the greater challenge. You never know what you're capable of until you push yourself farther than you think you can go. So for me, it was scary taking the classes at science and math because I knew that I was going to be among the best of the best high school students in the state. And I would encourage students that, like Emily said, even if you're scared, go ahead and go for it. Even if you think it might be bad, go ahead and go for it. And then while you're in the middle of it, just push yourself hard so that you can have the outcome that you want. So that would be my advice. And also, I think a lot of times in high school, we focus so much on grades and getting the work done and getting into college, but really just enjoying the journey along the way of the things that you're learning and the education that you're receiving. So.
Yeah, such wise advice. And I think definitely advice to keep lifelong. I think that even that slogan just kind of pushes on through, even to like doing Zoom like this. I mean, who would have thought, what is it? Maybe a year or two ago, I'd be like on Zoom. It's like my least favorite. I was telling Rob earlier, I was like, my least favorite thing is to watch myself on video. But it's definitely, you have to push yourself outside the comfort zone and just go for it. And, most of the time you're going to hit it. Sometimes you're not, but, you're not going to know what you don't know unless you try it, and that really is life lessons in anything that you're doing. So thank you for adding that. So we're going to turn, let's see, I don't think we have any questions. I'll encourage anyone to ask any that you have. If there's any youth out there that want to ask some questions, please chime in. We have about 12 more minutes left. So I'm going to actually read you the questions from Elena that I sent. And she was so gracious to respond back and give us her responses to them in lieu of being here. And then Hillary and Emily, I'll ask you to reflect on these and see if, if you have anything you want to add. Okay. So the first question I asked Elena was, what are some of the hesitations you see with Native American students that will make them hesitant to apply to the school? I'm very curious about that. Her response was, being away from home, family would be the biggest hesitation I see with many of our students here in Columbus County. A lot of them are accustomed to a comfortable environment, and they're not mentally prepared as they should be to live away from home. Another one with our Native students is their involvement in sports. We have several who are multi-sport athletes who are being taught to focus on their athletic abilities to get them into the school they want. Also, the parents. Our parents are extremely protective, so they view schools that are outside of the normal routine as a challenge, which is hard for them to accept. So I think we've heard some of what you guys have said, and some of these things Elena agrees with. Hillary or Elena or Emily, do you guys have any comments you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I have a few comments. The first is the hesitation about moving home and being comfortable where you are. I think I commented on that earlier. Mm-hmm. Making that step earlier than later will help you out in the long run with moving out to college. The sports thing, the only sport science math doesn't have is football, right? the main big sport, that East Columbus would have is football. So they do have softball, baseball, volleyball, all those fun sports. Because I did cheerleading. I did cheerleading at East Columbus while I was there. And then when I went to science and math, I did competitive cheer. And they also have basketball cheerleading. So they do have that, and they have a softball team. So that didn't miss out on that. There was one other thing. What did Alina say as her last point?
Let's see. The athletics, parents are extremely protective. So they view schools that are outside of the normal routine as a challenge, which is hard for them to accept. Or a change. She must have been a change, which is hard for them to accept.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's just, if it's something you really want to do as a student, you just have to have that conversation with your parent and convince them that you are in a mental state where you could be away from home and that you want to challenge yourself to make that change. Because it is really worth it in the long run.
And I'd like to add in real quick with the parent aspect is parents can be as involved as they want to be too. Like we have some parents that, on weekends, they'll make the trip up to Durham, and we're not going to take them away for 2 years and you never see them. They do get to come home every 3 to 4 weeks for an extended weekend. In fact, if you know somebody at Science and Math, they're coming home this weekend. If you know an online student, they're coming to campus this weekend. So when our students go home, our online students come to campus and take advantage of those online weekends.
Yeah, I will add just real quick too that as far as the going off, even to college, I see some of my students in high school that I'm helping apply to college that are hesitant about going off. And my thing is always like, yes, Columbus County is great. It's nice to be around your family, but whenever you go off, you have so much more opportunities or different opportunities, and you can always come back. So I'm back here serving the community. So there's nothing wrong with going off and learning from different people, learning from different areas, and then coming back and giving back to your community. So you're not going forever. You can always come back to your family.
I'll also say when I was there, we had a Quago, which was the Native American Culture Club on campus. And we were really involved. There was myself who was Wakamasuan. There were a few Lumbee students, some other students from various tribes across the state, and we would host monthly events. We would have meetings. We would prepare for the powwow that Science and Math hosts. So it was really, you weren't completely disconnected from your Native community because we did have that club and we had common experiences between that club.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Emily, any other comments from anyone? No. All right, I think we have time for one more good question, but we'll see. All right, the next one I have, now I'm having to flip around here. I was doing too many scrolling. All right, if you could say one thing to your 16-year-old self, this was my question to Alina, what would it be? Her response was, don't rush this time away. These are critical years for smart choices, but also some of the most fun years you have as a student. Every single day, enjoy every single day and don't take the good or bad moments for granted. Awesome statements. Emily, you're off mute. Do you want to, do you have a reflection on that as well?
Yeah, I'd say it just to keep in mind that it's never too early to try things. Like, just because you're in high school, it's not too early to try an internship in something that you might think is interesting or volunteer in some organization that you've always been interested in, because that's the time for you to really figure out what you want to do. Because if you decide something in college and then you get an entire degree in it and then you decide you don't like it, well, now you're 4 years in, however much money in debt for student loans, and now you're in that career field. But when you're in high school, you have that time to really explore and learn about different career paths and just get a taste of different areas before you're actually committed to them.
Awesome. Great advice, Emily. Yeah, I know I've heard so many folks who's, they get into, and I mean, it's totally okay. They go into school for about 2 years and then they're like, I'm really not sure still what I want to do. I'm just going to do what other people are going to do. And I mean, I think even for myself, like that's what I did. I went to UNC Pembroke for 1 year and I said, okay, I'm going to do social work because that's what, I mean, I really didn't know what it was, but I knew that's what other people were doing and I wanted to be in class with them. So I was like, yeah, let's just go do that. But then whenever life happened, and in between freshman and sophomore year, I joined the Army. When I went in to go and speak with the recruiter, I was like, I think I'll do computers. Is what my mom said. This was in 2001, that would be a smart move. And there's going to be money one day in computers. You should go do that. And I remembered her saying that in the back of my head. And so that's what I did. And there's no changing from that in the military. That's going to be, that's what you're going to do. So you can't go back from that, but totally agree with what you're saying there. Hillary, you want to chime in here as well?
Yes. I think my big advice to me whenever I was 16 would be to talk to more people. So at that online weekend, it was one of the first chances I was forced to talk to strangers. I didn't have my car, didn't have my parent, I didn't have anybody I knew. And I had to talk to strangers, but I got so comfortable doing that. I went to governor's school and I talked to strangers for 5 weeks, and now I'm in college and I talk to strangers, and you would be so surprised how much you would learn from somebody that you never met before, because everybody's experiences are so unique. So I always tell my high school kids, get off your phone. Like, there's somebody right there beside you. Talk to these people and figure out what their experiences are in the world, not just in education, but like, what is their life like? What are the barriers they have to education? Maybe how are they different from you? And you can learn so much from other people. So.
Yeah, totally. And I definitely think it's one of those things where you kind of if you can just throw yourself into it, even as an adult. I mean, I know adults who, whenever they go to networking events, they just talk to the people they came there with, which is totally not the point of a networking event, is to meet other people. But we definitely do get in these comfort zones and just do what's comfortable. And I think that it's stepping outside of the box and stepping outside into the uncomfortable space is really where you start to grow. So Rob, you have a comment?
Yeah, I would like to add, first of all, for our students out there, 30 to 40% of the careers that you'll apply for don't exist yet. So if I think back to when I was your age, the first thing that comes to mind is social media influencer. There was no social media when I was in high school. So a lot of the things that you're going to do don't exist. So being a lifelong learner, learning how to continuously learn, continuously adapt, is going to make you more employable and is going to open up an entire different world to you. I also want to say the biggest thing you learn at science and math, we have great academics, we have great teachers, but learning to advocate for yourself and learning to manage your time is the most important lesson. And I remember both Emily and Hillary being, 15 and 16, and I don't think you would have seen either of them maybe on a call like this, just owning it. And like to see you two both just like the maturity and but you saw that when they were seniors after being in the program for a year or a year and a half. So the maturity and the growth that you have in the program, and then once you go into college, it just keeps on. So I think that's the biggest thing is putting yourself out there, definitely, and taking a chance, whether it's with science and math or whether it's a program through UNCW, whether it's a program through UNC Pembroke. You don't have to do our summer camps. There's a lot of other great resources out there for you to use to propel yourself into your future.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. I think we have about 2 more minutes. I have, just as a quick time check, we have one question from the audience. Can you better explain the timeline for the residential program at NCSSM? Is it an application in the 10th grade applied for 11th and 12th grade?
Yes. So you'll fill out the application in the fall of your 10th grade year. And when you fill out the application, that can be for residential Durham, residential Morganton, online, summer ventures. So you can apply to 4 different programs, or you can apply just to one. So you apply in that fall of the sophomore year. Application closes in January. Then we have you go through a few more steps in February and March. And then in April, you get that notification if you've been accepted or not. And then it's your choice. And you can apply and decide this isn't the right choice for you. But if you're selected, it means you have the ability to be at the School of Science and Mathematics. And I do want to mention two things that are not guaranteed yet, but two things that are in the works. So first of all, if the state budget passes the way it's written right now, and we are 3 months behind getting a state budget, so we're anticipating our state budget, they're reintroducing the North Carolina School of Science and tuition waiver, which means if you graduate from Durham or Morganton, you automatically get 4 years of free tuition at any UNC system school upon acceptance. That's a pretty big deal for college. The second thing that which was a surprise to us is the School of Science and Math is part of the UNC system. The UNC System Board of Governors is voting next month for guaranteed acceptance, which would mean if you have a 3.5 or higher weighted GPA at NCSSM, you automatically get accepted to any UNC system school you apply for. So those are both brand new things that were kind of shocking to us. We didn't anticipate them, but those could be two great opportunities through the residential program. I tell students, unfortunately, online, because it's supplemental, doesn't fall into that. But if online is your passion and you want to stay at home and make contributions at home, but take the online classes, don't worry about the tuition waiver. Don't worry about the acceptances, because those will come anyway. So it's really your choice of what program you want to do, but it's definitely that sophomore year. If you're 7th, 8th, 9th grader, now's the time to start preparing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin. Those are such exciting opportunities for our people. And I hope everyone out there is listening. And I know we're going to have a recording of this that's going to be out on the STEM Studio page. We'll also be posting it to YouTube, and then we'll likely post a link there as well. So everyone can go back and record or rewind and watch it a few times. I think it's really packed with a lot of great content, both from Rob, also from Hillary and Emily, giving your insights in the program and your experiences. And I really appreciate that. So I think unless no one else has any questions in the comments, I'm going to give a quick plug for a November 13th event that STEM Studio will be participating in with the North Carolina Museum of Natural Science in Whiteville. They're going to have a Native American Heritage event there from 11 to 2. So if you would like to come out, you'll be seeing dancing, Native American dancing, workshops will be taking place there to learn more about our culture. And we encourage everyone to attend, and it is open to the public. All right. So with that, I think we're going to close out, but I appreciate everyone. And thank you, Hillary and Emily and Rob, for joining in and sharing with the audience. Thank you. And everyone, have a great evening.
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.